Welcome back to my Commodore 64 Games Memories video series. This is where I look at old games and some of the technical details behind them. Today we have Kingdom of the Seven Stones, a new adventure game by Robin Raymond. A little while ago I helped with some music conversion with my music studio software, and Robin was kind enough to send me a copy of the game once it's finished. This adventure game actually fills the entire 1 megabyte Marina 64 cartridge. Newer versions of Vice will emulate this cartridge file format. The much older versions of Vice don't. You can see there all of the banks are used for the entire 1 megabyte. I'm using cartconf utility, which is bundled with Vice to look at this. So yes, if you like these kind of technical deep dive videos, then please do consider liking or subscribing to this channel, or sending me a super thanks. They are all always very much appreciated. When the game starts, we can see that in the memory debug view here, that there's a ton of memory copying going on and what looks like a ton of decompression as well. We get this rather lovely title screen with this music going on in the background, and then we have a little screen split between what looks like bitmap mode at the top and then the text mode down underneath. Let's use the ICU 64 debug graphics view here to see if we can find anything else in memory. There doesn't look like there's any sprites at all. This isn't a surprise, it's a text adventure. If I use the lowercase ROM character set and quickly whiz through memory, there we go. The text is in the default screen there, up at 400 in hex. As the text scrolls up, then the text screen actually shows the text history, which is good. There's a little more prompt there. It waits for you to press a key so you have time to read what comes on the screen. The graphics map on the right hand side there on the debug view is actually quite useful for reading the text as well. There's quite a lot of text to get through, but that's okay because it's a text adventure. I do notice that the images seem to have been... Oh look, you can press enter and then you get the whole text buffer visible, and then you press enter again and it loads the screen again. So look, you can see all of the decompression that goes on when bringing back the screen. Wow. Using the debug graphics map text screen view there at 8000 in hex, I can see a whole bunch of individual words by the looks of it. And I was looking at that piece of memory because I could see that there were quite a lot of memory reads and copies going on from that memory, that range of memory locations. There we go. There's more decompression going on as I look at the location. And then there we go. There's the slightly shortened version of the text, I think. If you do a look again, I think that's what my gut feeling is telling me, which is quite a nice little feature, I think. Let's go east. Now I'm going to play through this game a little bit, because by playing through this game you can see some of the graphical variation. Now I was going to point out that these images seem to have been processed really quite well with a lot of dithering. The dithering shows quite a lot of detail still in the background, which is good, and it augments the color palette choices for the Commodore 64. If I get the axe, watch what happens to the image now. There we go, the axe has disappeared. This I like. It shows a good attention to detail, which is always nice to see, and because there's a lot of memory in the cartridge, then you can kind of afford to do that if there aren't too many images in the cartridge. So Robin was actually kind enough as well to send over all of the source code and the data files for this game, so I was able to have a little dig through that as well. I could see that a lot of this game was actually written in C and compiled with one of the 6502 Commodore 64 assemblers. So there's actually quite a lot of code squeezed into this cartridge. C makes for a much more maintainable programming solution when you're dealing with large complex systems like this. There is a ton of decompression going on. There is an awful lot of bank switching going on as well, I feel, within this. Well, there are 128 banks. You can see how much is being decompressed between each view. There we go. There's another picture coming in. These are rather lovely pictures, I must say. Choosing to go south, and we get another bunch of decompression and memory copying going on. I think there's one decompression stage for the new image, which looks very nice. It's a courtyard in the castle. And then the other one is the decompression for all of the textual or individual word data and the text data as well. Moving west, get to this area, which is a music room. There's quite a lot of atmosphere in this game as well. There are some characters that you can talk to find out what they want. I think this guy actually wants something. Yeah, there is a ton of word and text data going on in there. This does seem to change between locations as well. So there seems to be a bit of maybe dictionary-based compression going on here. There's a ton of code as well. Looks like some repeated, maybe speed code going on in there as well, because that looked like a regular pattern. And then we get up at the, in the latter half of the memory, it seems to be mostly from 8000 onwards at least. It seems to be textual data and graphics data. Let's talk to the trumpet player, not the trumpet player. I made a typo, must be tired. Talking to the trumpet player. He likes music, which is good since he plays a musical instrument. He's looking for musicians to share his joy and sorrow and to inspire him. Looking at the disassembly, I mean, the code doesn't look too bad, actually, considering it's C code compiled up. It's actually relatively optimal, I think. It doesn't have all of this stacking and unstacking that I would normally expect to see in an older compiler. So the compiler actually seems to be doing a relatively good optimization job. Heading east from the music room and the castle, I get to this dirt road where there's a young lass working in a field of golden wheat. Hold on, a soldier is going on about having caught someone red-handed. Why is he arresting her? That doesn't seem fair, does it? She looks completely innocent. What do you think? What does the soldier say? He says he's a mere soldier, but he seems to be wearing complete plate mail armor with a great big broadsword. So, no, not just a mere soldier. What does the maiden have to say for herself? Ah, she is falsely accused of the theft by the soldier. And then I'll just wander off and then come to this other location, which is a well, okay? So I'm going to leave the maiden and the soldier just standing in that location, I think. Let's go down the well. What's down here? There is a breeze of air coming from it. This looks nice, doesn't it? I mean, it's the bottom of the well, but there is a divining rod. It's meant to help you find water. Anyway, so let's get back out of this well. Now I seem to have found a divining rod, which I'm pretty sure is going to be needed. Right, yeah, let's get it that time, because there we go. Now I've got the divining rod. I think I made a typo, didn't I? Now I can go up to the top of the well. The choice of, well, there isn't really a choice of colours, right? I mean, the Commodore 64 has a fixed colour palette, but the images fit well within this palette choice. Oh, a nice town square. There really are a ton of locations in here. Now this blacksmith, he wants an axe. And that's the axe that I picked up much earlier on when it was on the tree stump. And now the blacksmith is really quite happy with me. My reputation increases, I'm guessing. Now keep an eye on this split here. When I go from this location to the next one, go east here, and then you can see here is some kind of like extra corrupted text at the bottom of this screen here, well, in the split area. There's also a lot of repeated reads going on in this memory view here, and I'm suspecting that this is actually not quite a bitmap. I'm thinking that this is an FLI image, we'll test that in a minute. Wandering around a little bit more, actually, there's this new location with another piece of music. So this game has quite a lot of music in the different locations. Let's hunt around in memory, see if we can find the music player. So we'll be looking for 8D, 18D4, which is store accumulator, at D418, which is the SID volume register. So that's what we're looking for in terms of code when we look for 8D18D4. It really does help to find anything to do with the SID usually, which is the sound chip in the Commodore 64. And we've got what looks like a color screen for a bitmap at E000, but there we go. I can see a text signature MS22, which is Music Studio version 2.2. And so that definitely tells me that that's the Music Studio converted music or exported music. You can see it there too, MS22, with a couple of 4Cs before it. Now 4C is jump, so that's the jump table at the beginning of the music routine, which you can hear playing along in the background here. Nice piece of music, it fills the atmosphere for this game, I think. Let's open up the image directory. There we go, there's 255 individual files there for different images in the different locations. Some of them are duplicated because they have axes removed, for example, or other things removed. When moving between this location and the next, there we go, we've got that split corrupted text display again, which indicates that there's an FLI image being displayed. In the graphics map text screen debug window there, we've got FF characters being displayed, and that's on the left hand side, and I think that's the FLI. There's an FLI bug with the color screen data for the bitmap fetch, and to mask that out you can just have the first few characters with the same color. And so the bitmap color text screen color screen fetch will show this column of reduced colors, if you like, down the left hand edge as well. So that doesn't really affect so much the other color channel for the bitmap, usefully enough. It restricts the colors that you can display on the far left hand column for an FLI picture anyway. Let's fill the memory from E000 to E3F7, which will obliterate that first screen there. Let's fill it with 1 and 2. And you can see there now that the color information just from that one screen affects every 8 pixel rows in the FLI bitmap display, which kind of really does show us, without delving too much into the C64's VIC cycle debugger anyway, because actually I don't think that older version of Vice in the C64 debugger will run this cartridge, because I don't think it has support for it. But anyway, we can see now that the decompression is for this image is not restoring that data in the first screen that I removed. So let's change location, and then let's go back again, right, in that location, and then hopefully there we go. The debug view is showing that the screen color data has been restored now, and then it's come back again. So there's that column of pixels on the left hand side of the bitmap there. You can see that's just because of the FLI color data fetch bug. It's kind of like an artifact introduced by forcing a new character row, text screen row, if you like, which is basically the color data for the bitmap, and it's just an artifact of not being able to fetch the data from memory cleanly, if you like, and so it just gets the VIC fetching a couple of repeated values of FF. So that's why it kind of reduces the colors that you can display in the left-hand column of an FLI image there. I like the way that this game uses occasional FLI images. It basically increases the variation in the colors that you can use because you're forcing the VIC to fetch the color information much more rapidly than it normally would. So you're no longer limited to the number of colors that you would normally have in a bitmap screen for each 8x8 pixel blob or 4x8 multicolor pixel blobs. You can actually fetch different colors much more frequently as it goes down the character cell. We can debug this in a little bit more detail. Let's bring up the different colored text screens, or rather the different text screens which are used for color in multicolor bitmap mode. And then in the memory debugger, we can see that we've got these repeated reads here. I think that's loading the FLI memory layout and vertical Y scroll information. There we go. See, it's loading and storing from the table into D011 and D018. And that's doing it in the visible portion of the screen as well. So if we notice that this store to D011 is going to be from prior knowledge, let's just basically step through a little bit more, but this D011 store is forcing the VIC to fetch a new row of colors, basically by forcing a bad line condition. And this forcing the VIC to fetch a new row of colors basically fetches a new row of characters from the text screen, but in bitmap mode it's used as a color screen. You can see here, now it's just done the store and we're just about to do the increment X. And let's just double check D011 and D018. So D018 is the memory setup, as you would normally expect. The reason why it's updating the memory setup is that you want to point the VIC at a different screen. In other words, color data for the multicolor bitmap mode. So pointing it at a different screen will then force the VIC to fetch new color information from that different screen address by updating its memory setup. But you can see there that there's a difference of 42 cycles between the increment X and the compare X. Increment X doesn't normally take 42 cycles, so we know that the VIC has triggered a bad line and basically stolen the cycles away from the CPU. This is useful because actually this FLI update routine kind of like self-stabilizes. Because you're stealing a whole bunch of cycles from the CPU, the VIC will only relinquish those cycles back to the CPU at an appropriate point in the horizontal scan line. So you only have a little bit of time actually to update these registers before the VIC stuns the CPU again and puts it into this bad line pause mode effect. So we're looking at the graphics map text screen view here, and we can see those columns of FF characters down the left hand side. Now I have a feeling it's just put as FF there just to fill the memory with the value that actually the VIC is expecting or will be fetching. There is a little FLI bug where the first couple of characters or color information is actually fetched from memory as FF when it's not actually in memory as FF. This is just a little bug with forcing the VIC to do much more work than what it was expecting to do. So that's not really an issue. I cleared that memory down at the bottom of the bitmap as well just to make the graphics map debug view a little bit easier to see. But we can see that there's a ton of extra screens for the color information for this bitmap dotted out through memory. In fact, there's 8 extra screens, and that corresponds to the 8 different memory setup configurations. So let's just fill the first couple of bytes with 0. Actually, it's 3 FF bytes that we should be expecting to fill on the left-hand column. And if we take those 0 values and paste them down into the first few character row and columns here, and then we will do a little comparison. So that's the current screen before the monitor has unpaused, and then we'll just let the game run, and then we'll bring back the screen snapshot, and you can see if I put it side by side that there isn't going to be any difference. Just pasting some extra color information there in the first two color screens anyway, so we should definitely be seeing some changes in the pixels. And let's just change the first row of pixels as well to be black. So this is changing the first character row in the first screen, and then we'll change the second character row in the first screen as well. And you can see that as I do that, I'm introducing black pixels, but those pixels, it's a pixel high line. So that's how we know that this first screen is actually just for the first row of pixels in the character cell. It's not. And then the other screen is going to be for the other row of character cells underneath it. If I have a look at what the real color screen contains, then it just contains the color information for the third color that's used in the multicolor bitmap. So we can see in this ICU64 debug view here for the color RAM that that's what the color RAM looks like, and it corresponds to the color RAM view in the Vice monitor view. But if I continue to fill in those lines, you can see the black pixels appearing on the screen, but it's only black pixels for each horizontal character row. That's the first one. Then this second screen here fills in the pixels for the next line. Let's do it halfway down the screen. Then you can start seeing the black line of pixels being introduced for this particular point on the screen. So we now know that those graphics map text screens are mapping into the color information, but I want to try and tidy up this horizontal split between the FLI screen mode and the text mode down at the bottom of the screen. So luckily enough, there's a change in the border color from red to black. So let's do a watch, or did a watch store point on D020, which is the border color. And I can see that there's a code which is running at line 13. I don't think it's the code that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the code which is down at the bottom of the screen, near the bottom of the screen, which is here. That code there seems to start at 950 if I trace back through the disassembly. So what I want to do is that I want to add some code to introduce a nice little delay at 950, or rather for the code at 950 to delay switching on the screen. So I'm going to use an illegal screen mode, which is basically turning on bitmap and extended color mode. And to turn on bitmap and extended color mode, we just add these two bits into the VIC control VIC screen control register, and then we get a value of 7B. So instead of turning on or basically disabling bitmap and letting the text screen turn on, I'm turning on the illegal mode by altering the immediate value, which is loaded at 95B when it's displaying an FLI image. And I'm putting 7B now into D011. Now that's going to have an illegal screen mode, which basically turns everything kind of like black because the VIC gets confused and outputs black. But what we need to do now is that we need to override the routine which returns from the interrupt at 96E. We just make it jump to our code at 810 instead. And now if I add some code at 810 now, just making sure that 810 is actually really free. I think it is. Yeah, it's completely, it looks like blank memory and it looks like it's not being used. So we'll just put this code there. Now we'll put in a delay first of all. So we'll put a little delay loop with a load x, decrement x, and branch not equal back to 812 in memory. We'll do a load accumulator with what? Screen on text mode enabled. So yeah, 25 rows and screen on, and don't need bitmap mode, don't need extended color mode or anything else like that. So we'll put 1B now into D011. Then what we'll do is that we'll jump to the return interrupt routine that was in the original code, which is B70. So that's the interrupt return code at B70, and that just basically validates that we can update the X register safely It seems to do a load X and a PLA and RTI, which is fine, I guess, if you're not using, if it's stacked or if it saves the X register properly when entering the routine. So anyway, this is the code at 950, which should be turning back on the text screen. So we've got the illegal screen mode configured at this particular point in the execution. Then we turn on the text screen again. Now, so we turn off the bitmap. Let's delete all the breakpoints, and there we go. Well, that was a good little initial guess for the delay timing for the split. So now the split on the screen is a lot tidier. There's no corrupted, weird-looking textual type stuff on the screen. So what we can do now is that we can just tweak this little delay value just to really optimize the screen split so that it's not. And there you go. If I make it very small, we get the weird corruption back again, and then if I make it a bigger value, it gets rid of most of the corruption. So I'm just increasing the value by one iteration each time, and you can see that the pixels, the black pixels, are removing the white corrupted values, and there we go. F. Well, F seems to be a good value. It basically pushes the text screen enable just slightly into the right hand border. So that seems to be the optimal timing now for that routine, at least in the FLI mode. Anyway, that's the optimal timing. In the bitmap mode, where it's not using FLI, then the timing will be different, of course, but we're not too worried about that because the split in the bitmap mode seems to be okay. So there we go. That's the split routine tidied up by using the legal screen mode with bitmap and extended color mode enabled first, and then just disabling bitmap and extended color mode and just leaving the text screen mode enabled after a certain amount of time, and we get a nice, a better, less corrupted split. Keep an eye out here. When, after I finish, it's not talk. Another typo. Let's get the meta. There we go. And then there we go. It's disappeared from the image. So basically, something you can drink your mead from. The large container has disappeared from the table, the bench. So thank you very much for Robin for sending me this version of the game so I can have a look at the finished product. I'm going to sit down now with this and see if I can actually play through it myself without resorting to the hints and cheats worksheet or spreadsheet that Robin also sent me. I prefer to work through this myself. It's always nice to see new games on the Commodore 64 and new cartridges as well, especially a nice new 1 MB cartridge, which is quite spacious. So thank you very much for watching. If you like these kind of technical deep dives into Commodore 64 retro games, then please do consider liking or subscribing to this channel. Take care, have a great day, evening or night, wherever you are.